Okay, so I'm about halfway through sort of restoring the floors of my garage. This house was built in the 1970s, and it's collected a significant amount of, dirt, paint, staining, and stuff like that over the years. And I wanted to restore the floors a little bit because I'm trying to set up a home shop. And this is kind of the first step. You can see all the crap that's accumulated, or that I've moved over to the other side of the garage. So this side has already been done. I wasn't actually going to record this, but I figured last night maybe I would actually seal it and stuff like that and give it a real proper treatment. So I figured may as well record it. So here we are. This is what I've been using. I rented this from Home Depot for about a day. I wouldn't recommend going any less than that, 4 hours or anything like that. This is it's got like these pads down here, and they essentially just grind the surface a little bit. This is a concrete prep tool, if you're interested. At first I was using a pressure washer, and it was just not working out quite the way I wanted it to. So I returned it, came back and got this thing. And it's been doing a pretty good job. I can't get everything. Alright, I got it all swept up, and you can see it's still very much dirty. Old paint, grease, tape, I mean, you name it. It's very much a 40-year-old garage floor. It's got, a lot of wear and tear on it. So I'm hoping to restore it to a little bit like this. This looks a little bit better. Now, the garage floor itself looks pretty good, actually. I don't see any major cracks or anything like that. I have a few gouges, like here. That's the biggest one, but it's not a huge deal. There's my boot for comparison. Pretty shallow. But yeah, I'm ready to grind or polish it, and so I'm just going to spray it down a little bit with a water hose and get to it. All right, I'm all plugged in and everything, and I just wanted to note one more thing before I get started. Definitely use ear protection. This thing is really, really loud, especially in, an enclosed space like a garage or something like that. It's very loud. Definitely get some ear protection if you don't have it. And I would also recommend a dust mask. I'm actually going to wet my floor down a little bit with a hose just to get it a little bit damp. But still, I would use a dust mask because there's still going to be very fine concrete particles floating around in the air. And you don't want that getting in your lungs. So definitely use these two things. Here's where I'm at. You can see I got all the junk out of my garage. Everything's sitting in my driveway. So what I've been doing now is I'm just going to give it a quick sweep. And you can see these little pieces of tape on the floor. I'm just marking all the holes and stuff that I want to fill with like crack filler and stuff like that before I actually paint the floor. So I'm just going through and marking that, and after that I'll prep it one more time. It's been about 3 weeks since I actually ground the floor down. I haven't been able to get back to this project, so it's kind of dirty. It's really hard to keep people out of your garage for 3 weeks, and you can see some tire tracks from my motorcycle, some bike tracks and stuff like that. So I'll have to get that off as well. But for right now, I'm just going to fill the holes. I'm going to give it a quick sweep, and then I'm going to mark the rest of this area here. I made it about halfway through, so you can see there's a good amount, but the floor is not too bad. Most of these are really minor holes. All right, so I'm just going to prep the holes real quick. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm just going to use a wire brush and make sure there's nothing loose coming out, you know, they're not falling apart or anything like that. Then I'm going to vacuum them up, and I'm going to follow that up with a quick solvent wipe to make sure any residual dust or anything like that is out of there. And for that, I'm just going to use acetone just because it dries very quickly, and I can go ahead and apply that stuff fast. Okay, just going to show you real quick how I'm mixing this stuff. This is part A. And like I said, chopsticks work pretty well for this. Just mix it up every time a little bit just to make sure it hasn't settled. All right. Teaspoon. Actually, I think I'm going to use 4 of these. That's 1. All right, so this is the biggest hole of the whole bunch. That's for reference. I think this is 3 inches, so it's about a 2-inch diameter hole. I'm going to demonstrate on this one kind of how I'm doing this. This thing is very handy, so I'm just going to scoop some out. Just going to slowly fill it. And now I'm going to lay this kind of flat so that it sort of presses it in there. I found with this stuff, if you scrape too much away, like this, if you can see like the bare concrete on the sides like this, you're probably going to have to do a recoat because it tends to kind of bowl out as it dries, it seems like. So what I tend to do is just leave like an extra millimeter or so on top. That's a little bit too much. You can see the outline there. So now I'm going to clean it up a little bit. And that's about the thickness I want right there on this one. Just enough so that you can't really see the concrete anymore. And that seems to work pretty well. All right, here we are the next day. You can see there's a little bit of bowling happening. This is probably about the only hole that I need to refill. That was that big one that I showed. But this stuff, this epoxy, I just wanted to show, it's really hard. which means sanding this stuff is probably gonna suck. But that's the next step. I'm gonna fill probably just this one hole in with one more coat, and then that should be about it. I'm just gonna go around and inspect the rest of them, and move on with the rest of it. All right, I'm ready to start grinding this stuff down here. This is kind of what it looks like the day after. It's very hard. And here's what I'm going to use to grind it. It's just the 40 grit flap wheel, and that should be good. Now, when you're doing this, make sure you're using the proper PPE. Use all this stuff. It's about 100 degrees again today, so this is going to suck, but you don't want to be breathing all that concrete dust and stuff like that. So make sure you do that. Basically, I'm going to grind it. I'm going to use the tip a little bit more and kind of grind it down. And then the very last part, I'm going to put it kind of flat to polish it up a little bit. And you'll see that in a minute. And there we go. That's pretty flat. So here's what it looks like right now. The next step is going to be starting to prep it for the coating, which I'll show you guys later. But what I'm going to do real quick is just go over it just once or so with the shop vac, just to get all the very fine dust that's that's covering the floor right now up. And after that, I'm going to start scrubbing it. So. Okay, so there we are. I finished vacuuming it, and this is what it looks like. It's pretty well prepped. Unfortunately, I do have some tire tracks and stuff like that still on there. You can see that. So I'm just going to use a simple degreaser and scrub brush and just scrub it out a little bit. What I'm using is just some regular old simple green. And I guess this is a 5-gallon bucket, so I'd estimate I mix it about 1 to 10 ratio. And I left a little bit for just spot spraying. So what I'm going to do is just scrub this floor real quick, and after that we'll do solvent wipe. And there we go, done. Just gonna let it dry. My hope is that scrubbing it also removes a little bit of the fine particles that were still. I can wipe my hand on the ground and still get, covered fingertips and stuff like that. So I hope that'll help a little bit before I do the solvent wipe. So I'll make that a little bit more quick and painless. But that's all. All right, so I'm at the final stage of prep before I put the first coat down today. And what I'm going to do is just do a solvent wipe. And I'll show you after doing that scrub and stuff like that. You can see it looks pretty good. I don't think I got it on camera before, but my fingertips would normally be completely white beforehand, whereas now I just have this little bit of dust, not too much of a problem. And usually that'd be good enough. I could probably coat it now and not have any issues, but just to be safe, I'm gonna wipe it down real quick with some solvent. What I have here is some mineral spirits. This actually is probably not ideal. I tried it out a little bit, and the evaporation rate is a little bit slow for my taste. I also had acetone that was just way too fast. So if I were to do this again, I'd probably use something a little bit in the middle, like maybe denatured alcohol or xylane or something like that. So keep that in mind if you're doing this. But since I have this big old jug here, I'm just going to use this and see how it goes. So I'm just going to put it in this paint tray here and then just dunk this Swiffer mop in, and we're going to see how good that works. If it doesn't work well, I'll just end up doing it by hand, but that's the plan for now. Make sure you wear protective stuff. Make sure the soles of your shoes are nice and clean so you don't track in any dirt, and definitely wear a protective mask from the fumes of this stuff. I want to note, right now it is about 103 degrees here and like 33% humidity. So my plan is to do this before dinner, let it dry, and then hopefully the humidity will go up a little bit and it'll cool down a little bit before I put the first coat on. Okay, so the solvent, I use mineral spirits, have dried, and here's what we're looking at right now. You can see still a little bit on my finger there, but we're just going to work with that. Alright, so here is what I'm actually going to be coating the floor with. This is a product called Rust Bullet, and this is a one-component urethane. I think this is an aliphalic urethane. Now, typically, this is just the top coat when you apply this Rust Bullet product. Typically, what you get is the colored variety, but I actually like the look of the bare concrete, and so I got a deal on this, and I'm going to go ahead and test it out with just applying this clear without any of the normal one beneath. Now, I think the only difference between this one, well, I'm not going to say the only difference, but the main difference is that this one doesn't have any aluminum in it. And the reason I chose this is because it's very chemically resistant and it's abrasion resistant. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a shot, and we're going to see how it works. I'm going to do probably about 3 coats. I have 3 gallons of this, and so I'm going to put the first gallon on now. The first gallon's probably going to, or the first coating is probably going to take the most, I guess. So we'll see if we can do it with just 1 gallon. If not, I'll have to dip into the next one. But the good thing about this is that it doesn't require any mixing like epoxies have, like an A and B, and you have to mix them together and stuff like that. This one doesn't. It's just one component. You just need to stir it up just like regular paint and roll it on, basically. So here's what we're going to use to paint the floor. I got my extension handle here, my paint roller, and my 3/8 inch nap roller. Now for these, just make sure you wipe it off before you start using it to get any kind of fuzzes or anything like that out. I already did this one, so we're good to go. Just gonna pop it on my roller. There we go. Screw it into my extension handle. And we're gonna be good to go here. There we are. So we're ready. All right, there we go. That's what it looks like. All right, so I'm gonna pause it, and I'm gonna go ahead and stir this for 3 minutes. All right, so when doing this, this stuff is pretty smelly, so make sure you wear P100 type mask filter. I got this, you can get these really cheap off Amazon or something like that, so definitely I would highly recommend investing in something like this. Besides, these are rechargeable, so easy. Also, when I did the solvent wipe, I wore this and I couldn't smell anything either, so I would definitely use this if you're painting or something like that. So I'm just going to pour some in there and start going here. Here we are. I just kind of wanted to show what the floor looks like after one coat. You can see it's turned kind of a little bit of a yellow rust color. And it's been about 3 or 4 hours. It's about 1 a.m. right now. And it's not tacky anymore at all. So I really should be putting the next coat down right now, but I can't because it's 1 a.m. and I can't leave my garage open all night and have to work in the morning. So plan is to get the next coat down before work and then put the third and final coat down after I get home from work. All right, so here we are the next day. This is about, I don't know, 10 hours after the initial coat was applied or so. Not much has changed since I checked last night, but I'm ready to put the second coat on. I just wanted to note a few things. The previous roller is hardened. You can't just put it in plastic bags or anything like that, like with latex paint. Excuse me. So I gotta get a new roller. This is gummed up. It doesn't spin very well anymore, so when you're cleaning your stuff, make sure you follow the directions, which say to use Xylane or toluene immediately afterwards to clean that stuff off. Otherwise, you're going to be buying all new equipment every time, which I learned out the hard way. All right, I've got all my stuff here ready. Now, this one's going to be a little bit different because it's going to be the second coat. I'm expecting to put about 3 coats on here. So I'm going to put this anti-slip additive in when I mix this. There's nothing special. I'm just going to dump it in and then mix it for the 3 minutes like it says to do. And yeah, that's it. Whoops. Alright, I'm done mixing it. And it's turned a little bit of a chalky color. Be sure to add this stuff kind of slowly so that it doesn't clump up. Alright, here's the floor. You can see that after the second coat, it's been drying for about 10 hours or so. And I'll show you a little bit of a close-up what it looks like. Hopefully that shows there. You can see the grit material in there, or the anti-skid or anti-slip stuff that I added. And it makes sort of a, I would say it feels somewhere between like 50 and 100 grit sandpaper right now. It's not bad. It definitely doesn't seem like I'm going to slip or anything like that. And I got pretty decent results. I want to note a few issues that I did have though on this coat. The first of which is this one bare spot right here. I think you can tell that. You can tell the difference between the grit and then nothing here. This is just the spot that I completely missed. And the reason is it's just really hard to see where you've rolled and where you haven't. So this last time around, I'm going to use like a T-square that you use for drywall or something to just mark sections for myself so that I can avoid that. The other thing is I noticed a little bit of a difference in some spots. You can see, let me see if I can find a good spot here. Okay. There's a little bit of a difference between the consistency in some spots. Like here, you can see it looks kind of like maybe water drops on a windshield or something like that when it's just getting a little bit wet versus the normal texture, which is just like sandpaper. And I don't know what caused that. I think maybe those are the spots where I have too much on my roller or something like that, or maybe it's the end of the roll, like where you switch direction or something like that. I'm not sure, but I have this sort of texture. It's difficult to get on camera, but I think I have it over various parts of the garage. And the last thing I noticed is I have this, pretty much just this one spot where this bubbling occurred. I think that's pretty clear right here. And I think that's also because, I think this is definitely because I had too much on the roller right here. I kind of wanted to show what this stuff looks like. There was still some left in my paint can, maybe about a 1/4 inch deep, and I just left it out in the sun to dry up and get hard for about the past 10 hours or so. And this is kind of what it looks like. You can see bubbles that look kind of like that packaging material, and it's just hardened plastic. So this is what I'm putting on my floor. So it seems pretty tough. I mean, this is hard as a tree branch. And you can see down here where it kind of ran down, it tends to bubble when there's too much of it. It seems like this is kind of a larger spot. So I wanted to address one other thing that I did wrong last time, and that was that my strokes were getting way too big, especially in the middle section here. I was doing probably a little bit more than 1/3 of the garage at once, which is just too long, and it just got me into trouble. The distributor actually recommends doing this in about 4x4 foot sections, which is probably pretty accurate. That's about how much I'd get on my roller typically. And yeah, I just got way too, I lost track of where I had painted and where I wasn't, so I was just starting to do really long strokes, and that may have contributed to some of the film defects there. So basically this time I'm just going to use one of these T-squares here, just to kind of mark a 4x4 foot section. All right, and here's the finished product. This is after the third coat. And that's what it looks like. Pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. The only issues I really had were on the second coat. The third and the first one went down pretty easily. My recommendation would be to be diligent about vacuuming the floor after every coat, because otherwise you will get some stuff stuck in it from, like, insects coming in, or, leaves blowing in or whatever. So I would definitely say to at least vacuum it. And try to avoid touching it as much as possible. I wonder if some of the grease from my hand may have caused some of the stuff like this. Let's see if I can get that on camera a little bit. I think you can kind of see that texture there is a little bit different side by side with the normal one. And I still don't really know what caused that. It may have been heat related, where the coating may have just kind of gone in, different directions or something. I don't really know. But yeah, otherwise it feels really nice, actually. This is a good amount of grit, I would say. And yeah, just gonna move everything in now. One more shot from the other side. Hopefully this will last me a long time, and I don't have to mess with the floor anymore. So there we go.